jumping right in, Alex, what do you see as the biggest challenge for internal communications in pharma today?
I'd say skepticism. I feel like skepticism of corporate comms is at an all-time high, and that's kind of inherent to what we see a lot in corporate comms, which is, whatever the communications are being sent by the corporate entity, and by definition, that means that employees are not engaging with other humans. They're getting something from an entity or a brand at best. So to solve for this, we really recommend that, especially in the case of pharma, that brands and comms teams really try to put in place comms platforms for individual leaders within the organization. So the leader of a sales team should be the one, for example, managing and delivering comms to them. Only once you've done this can you start to get at what a lot of brands want, which is more authenticity, the opportunity to actually deliver value-based messages or humor and things like that, and actually start to drive engagement with people and build culture and community.
How then should individual pharma leaders, whether corporate or brand marketers, start crafting their comms approach?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's easy to get it wrong. I think that you want to think about it like a marketing campaign. So you want to make sure that your communications are not, discrete and disparate, but you've got some kind of red thread going through. You've got some sort of a story that you're unpacking and telling over time. And, whether this is how you as a leader show up across events or meetings or emails or text messages within that team or that franchise or that organization, you want that culture to be something that's consistent. And so you want to have really solid conceptual messaging pillars that you're continuing to unpack and reiterate over time. You also want to have concrete taglines and messages that will carry those through. And if you can do that effectively with comms, then you'll be able to help people start to embrace that rallying cry and take it as their own and really get them more emotionally invested. So again, the role of comms shouldn't just be to sort of deliver information, but to really think about a conversation, a story, and a narrative that you can unpack over time that's going to lead to much more lasting health for the organization.
So, how can we amplify voices from the ground up to ensure that all employee voices are heard and they feel like they're part of the bigger story?
The number one thing obviously is don't have that individual leader and or the corporate entity be solely responsible for two things: sourcing and creating the content for, let's say, a town hall or a quarterly email or something like that, but also for delivering it. So you want to try to source content from individuals on the team, as well as give individuals the opportunity to deliver that content and those messages. The other thing is creating even small moments where the team can come together as one, whether you're virtual or in person, and giving them opportunities to share with each other in real time during some of these moments and meetings and events and things like that. So there's a lot of different ways to engage people, and the important thing is to always include some ingredients or elements that's not just top down.
How can events and communications come together as one?
Events are super important with having a sustainable comms platform, because using events as those tentpole moments to sort of drum up interest amongst your team is a really helpful way to get people to stay engaged with comms. Now, going the other way, we should also be thinking about how comms support events before, during, and after. There's different ways that you want to frame and tease up an event ahead of time, really reinforce maybe a presentation during the event or the meeting, and then afterwards thinking about what you send people away with, so that that message continue and that the impact of that event can have a longer tail.
Effectiveness is something brand leaders are asking about more and more, but measurement can be really hard to do in internal communications, especially when thinking about multi-directional engagements. What are the KPIs or metrics that brand leaders should be investing in to measure the impact of their communications and content experiences?
So understanding how people are engaging includes things like open rates, participation in events, activity on collaboration platforms. There's a lot of metrics within the existing platforms we're using, whether live or virtual, that you can actually use to quantify these sorts of things. The second thing would be really trying to look at behavior and how impactful your messaging is. So the true measure of success here is what kind of actions do employees take after they receive a communication. This could be things like adopting new tools, contributing more ideas in the future, showing more alignment to strategic goals. Some of those metrics are going to revolve around things like rate of adoption, policy and compliance acknowledgement, learning outcomes, employee contributions to meetings, things like that. And then the last piece is trying to measure sentiment. And this will tell you if your strategy is really being effective. So it's not just about delivering the information, like we said, but understanding how people are feeling in their responses. This could be things like pulse surveys, net promoter score surveys, feedback, sentiment analysis, measuring diversity of engagement you're getting from your team, as well as even psychological safety indicators. So I wanted to give you some of those lists because I think those will be helpful as thinking of starting points for how to get your hands around measurement.